Welcome to the Maldives, 47.
On Grubstakers, we're discussing the lifestyles of the rich and famous with very special guest, Matt Christman. So, get ready because it's the Jeffery Epstein episode.
Get lost, please. Thank you.
I can tell you that every job has its ups and downs, and a union can't change that fact.
I mean, it is the magic elixir of our age and of all ages. What it does for prostate cancer is amazing.
You got $200 million profit and you didn't have to pay any tax. Isn't that true?
Listen,
is that true or not? Yes or no?
It is. You do not pay a profit when someone, a tax when someone makes you sell assets.
For you become Secretary of Treasury, so you didn't have to pay the tax there.
Oh.
In 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hello, welcome back again to Grubstakers, the podcast about billionaires. I'm Sean P. McCarthy. I'm joined as always by my good friends
Yogi Polywall,
Andy Palmer,
Steve Jeffers.
And this week we got a really special episode, and we got a really special guest, and there's no one else we would rather have here with us to explore the life of one Jeffery Epstein. We are joined from my favorite podcast, Chapo Trap House. Matt Christman is here.
Good to be here, guys. Hi, thanks for the invite. Love talking Epstein.
Yeah, Matt, we want to thank you for agreeing to come and gaze into the abyss with us.
Yeah.
You guys said, hey, you guys want to talk about a billionaire? And I'm like, I guess. And they say, we haven't done Epstein yet. And I was like, yes.
It'll be an honor to share a unmarked grave with you.
And so many listeners will be familiar with kind of the broad strokes of the Jeffrey Epstein case. He's a powerful either billionaire or multimillionaire, we don't know, but he has heavy political and business connections. He receives an extremely lenient plea for just countless counts of child molestation, rape, trafficking, and then the plea just happens to immunize, quote, any potential co-conspirators, unquote. And then there's been a big effort to kind of shine light on what happened here recently, both through the press and through civil suits. And so I think within the next 5 to 10 years, either a bunch of new information comes out that proves, Pizzagate is real, or this case totally disappears and gets buried forever, which also proves Pizzagate is real. So, it's just something to watch, but it is kind of horrifying to just do research about.
Well, yeah, looking into this guy, it got to the point where I would not be surprised if he ordered Stanley Kubrick murdered to make it Eyes Wide Shut. That's every single thing, that I find out, every new thing I find out about this guy just gets weirder and weirder. Mm-hmm. It's and I already knew he was a serial rapist, but then each new detail, it gets more insane.
Right, and so, Virginia Roberts is one of the identified people, but there's also Jane Doe's that have made these sworn affidavits saying essentially Epstein trafficked them out to businessmen, politicians, other powerful people. He asked them to, gather information on these people. Police, when they raided his home in Palm Beach, found, hidden cameras, hidden recording devices. So it's
some
not...
that they installed themselves.
Yes. It's not hard to stretch the imagination to say... and Epstein, in fact, told Virginia Roberts that he was doing this, quote, because he wanted to have something over these people. It's not hard to imagine that there's maybe videotape of people who just don't want that out there.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that they found when they searched his house was one of the girls' high school report cards.
Right, yes.
So that's nice that he keeps those things.
Report cards?
Yeah.
What an odd victory piece.
Yeah. Well, he likes to keep track on them, make sure that they're doing good.
Yeah. He really... He offers to help them get into NYU.
Really?
Yeah.
Your grades have really fallen since you started coming to give me massages.
You're not going to get into the Corinth Institute with this Eddie.
Is anything going on with your personal life?
You should talk to the guidance counselor.
But yeah, so this is a federal non-prosecution agreement. We'll circle back to it.
Actually, one thing real quick is that one interesting thing is part of this all fell apart because of a guidance counselor.
Really?
Yeah. There's this girl, Mary, where she started having trouble at school, and then she talked to a guidance counselor, and they found hundreds of dollars in her wallet, and eventually that led them to Epstein and his Palm Beach.
They found money in her wallet? What?
It
fell out of her hand and money through...
I don't know the details of why they were going through her wallet, but it was... Yeah.
Huh.
And it's just something where, so yeah, like, you know, there are these other women who are like allegedly sex slaves. One of them is alleged that Epstein himself said that he like bought this woman from her parents, I think in Estonia or somewhere in Eastern Europe when she was 14. But these, like, you know, young adult women who were in the house with him who would lead these girls upstairs, and you know, it's all horrible. But essentially, you know, there were those co-conspirators who were immunized as part of this federal non-prosecution agreement. But again, according to the Miami Herald long piece, quote, any potential co-conspirators were also immunized as part of this federal thing. And then, of course, you have, as many people are aware, Bill Clinton is on the flight logs, having taken 26 trips on this Lolita Express.
Carpooling. It's nothing crazy. They're just hanging out, you know?
This plane, including to, you know, Jeffrey Epstein's little St. James Island. Apparently, on some of these trips, he ditched his Secret Service detail for some of them, which it doesn't prove anything. But
Lolita Express was, by the way, a name given to it by the locals in, I believe, the Bahamas.
The U.S. Virgin Islands.
U.S. Virgin Islands.
Mm-hmm.
I guess presumably because they saw so many young women coming out of this plane, that became a nickname amongst the locals.
The fact that he painted it yellow and black, I think, was a little on the nose.
And so there was like, we did for research for this, actually, James Patterson is, you know, speaking of billionaires, the second richest author in the world. He's almost more of a brand at this point. You know, he just kind of throws his name on things that he co-authors with people, according to like one linguist. Like the majority of his books are not actually written by him. They're written by his co-authors. But James Patterson, he holds the Guinness record for #1 New York Times bestsellers. Again, second richest author after J.K. Rowling. But the important thing is he wrote this book, or John Connolly and Tim Malloy wrote this book.
I think he wrote the first chapter because it's fucking awful.
Yes.
And then the rest of it sounds like it like comes across as written by real journalists.
Right.
But the first one, it reads like whoever was writing it was like, here's the story of a child rapist and the details of how he got caught, but I should sex it up. And so it's got these awful phrases, like he describes like the victim's apple round butt.
Oh no.
And it just
don't get horny when you're describing sex crimes. Yeah. I think that's just literary rule number 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apple round? That's the words that they use?
Apple round butt cheeks.
That's Boots weird. With the fur.
Yeah. The song came out right before he started writing.
He also describes a victim when Epstein walks in shirtless as being ripped like the jocks at her school.
But so this book, it gives kind of an overview of the case, but it is just kind of curious because some people might be aware James Patterson, who again writes this book on Jeffrey Epstein, would go on to co-write the book The President is Missing with Bill Clinton. And also, incidentally, he co-wrote a children's book, quote, Give Please a Chance with Bill O'Reilly in 2016.
Give Please a Chance?
Yes.
That's terrible.
But it is interesting. The book, just kind of like the James Patterson book, Filthy Rich, it kind of brushes over Bill Clinton. He's mentioned briefly. Like there's kind of like one sentence, which is, I mean, there's a couple, but one of them is Bill Clinton, Kevin Spacey, and Chris Tucker all flew to Africa on Jeffrey Epstein's plane with Jeffrey Epstein. And that's just left there as a sentence with no follow-up.
Damn. That is the one flight I would like to get the recording.
What did they talk about, those three?
He was dressed up like Fifth Element.
Chris Tucker talking to a 13-year-old Estonian. Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
I really don't.
But so, yes. So, you know, I don't know why James Patterson would write a book about Jeffrey Epstein and then go on to write a book with Bill Clinton. But, you know, in fairness, given James Patterson's reputation, it is very possible he has not actually read this book.
Sure, yeah.
Well, the 26 flights were left out of his book.
Yes, they did not mention.
That's the thing. It's like Chris Tucker one time went to Africa. It's like, all right, he doesn't necessarily know what's going on.
Right.
Yeah. Come on, 26 times. Get out of here.
Yeah. Christ.
Yeah, and for her part, Virginia Roberts has said, and again, other Jane Does have said this, Jeffrey Epstein was receiving 2 or 3, quote, massages a day. And again, a massage was code word for molesting, abusing young children. He was receiving 2 or 3 of these a day, and Virginia Roberts has said essentially anyone who spent any significant amount of time with Jeffrey Epstein would be aware of what's going on. So, it's hard to get around these things. But I guess we should just kind of go through the case and what we know of Jeffrey Epstein's biography, and then we can just kind of return to the larger questions here. But, in addition to like Jane Doe testimony from like Virginia Roberts, there's also, like housekeepers at Jeffrey Epstein's house in Palm Beach. This was between 2001, 2006. They testified that, he would have these 2 or 3 massages a day. Afterwards, they would often be asked to clean dirty sex toys and these kinds of things, children coming in and out of the house. And Epstein, of course, throughout this Florida investigation, he put private detectives on both the police investigating him, the states and federal attorneys. He put them on witnesses. There'd be cars tailing them. And
the victims' families were tailed by cars to the point where other drivers would be run off the road by the private investigators tailing victims' parents.
Mm-hmm. And, people would run these plates, and, of course, they would come up as private investigators. Mm-hmm. So, again, lots of power, lots of influence, but I guess we can just kind of start from the beginning here, which is what we know about Jeffrey Epstein. Essentially, he was born in 1953 in Brooklyn. On his mother's side, his parents were Lithuanian refugees. They fled Hitler. His grandparents on his father's side came from Russia. His father grew up in Crown Heights. Jeff's grandparents apparently owned like a house wrecking company. I guess they would knock down houses.
True.
And but his dad, Jeffrey Epstein's dad, worked for the city parks department in New York City. Jeffrey grows up on Coney Island. He graduates from Lafayette High School in 1969, which is in Gravesend, South Brooklyn. And if you go to the Wikipedia page for Lafayette High School, would you like to guess who is not listed as a notable alumni? Sandy Koufax, Larry King, Steve Sharippa are all on there on notable alumni, but there is one peculiar absence.
Oh, Larry King went there.
Yeah.
I can also think of another famous person who grew up in South Brooklyn Jewish community and portrayed it as being in Coney Island in the movie Annie Hall.
Interesting. After Jeffrey Epstein was released from prison, people who attended a dinner party at his apartment in New York, this is again after he's been publicly outed as a sex predator, Woody Allen, Chelsea Handler, Charlie Rose, Katie Couric, George Stephanopoulos.
And all come together for a huge party.
And
one last big bash.
These are the people who hold the powerful accountable. Yeah, they really grilled him at the dinner.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Right.
We couldn't see it.
Yeah, it's like, where did this swordfish come from?
But so he graduates Lafayette High School. He's kind of recognized as a math prodigy from a young age. Jeffrey Epstein is. He briefly attends Cooper Union. He attends NYU, but he leaves without a degree. But despite not...
Drops out?
Yeah, he drops out. Despite not having a degree, in 1973, he's able to get a job teaching math and physics at Dalton Academy, which is like an elite 1%er K-12 private school. So he's teaching math and physics. It's on the Upper East Side. It's still in existence today, and there's still New York Times articles about how stressed the elites are about getting their children into it for.
He was the inspiration for the Police song "Don't Stand So Close to Me."
But so basically, he gets this job teaching math and physics at Dalton in 1973, and this is essentially his connection to the 1%. This is what gives him the networking in that he needs to make himself very wealthy. He grows up, let's say, middle class, but either through the son or the daughter, he meets a guy named Alan C. Greenberg, who was the CEO of Bear Stearns from 1978 to 1993.
I'm pretty sure he's the guy who, in The Big Short, is the one who's on stage talking about how great Bear Stearns stock is while it collapses. I looked up his picture, and it's like, I'm pretty sure the actor is portraying that guy.
Yes. In 1976, Bear Stearns hires Jeffrey Epstein and then is cursed by history forever. But yeah, so Jeffrey Epstein is hired by Bear Stearns as an option trader in 1976. He later works in the special products division, which is basically advising wealthy clients on tax avoidance strategies. And as been mentioned on this podcast and other places, when in 1980 when Reagan came in, the highest marginal tax rate was 70%. So essentially, tax avoidance was a very lucrative thing. You could charge people a lot if you could say, hey, pay me this, and you'll still pay less than what you would pay the federal government. So he works on tax avoidance, and he's actually made a limited partner in Bear Stearns in 1980, which is, again, extremely lucrative. But just a year later, he leaves Bear Stearns. And then this is kind of a weird story where we don't know all the details, but there's an allegation that Epstein might have been involved in an insider trade here.
What?
Yes.
No.
We are going to nail Jeffrey Epstein for insider trading on this podcast. But so basically, there's in 1981.
I thought he was going to be the one billionaire who made all of his money legitimately
through hard work and gumption.
Yeah, and he just got brought down by his vice.
That's right.
It was completely unrelated.
Mm-hmm.
So it was because of social democracy that he got his first job in tax avoidance strategy.
The problem
the
with
Soc Dems gave him his start.
The real problem with the Swedish model. But so basically what happens in March 1981 is the Seagram Company places a bid for St. Joe Minerals Corp. It's a hostile takeover. And, they talk about this in, like, the book Den of Thieves and all this other stuff. But essentially, like, throughout the 80s, and I would imagine continuing to today, insider trading was endemic in Wall Street, where anyone who had knowledge of a deal would either have their own Cayman Islands account and they would trade on that deal, or they would just, give their friend a tip and say, hey, buy this stock and we'll split the profits later, So basically what happens here is right after this hostile takeover is launched, the SEC starts investigating, and Jeffrey Epstein has to admit, yeah, I lent my friend $20,000 to buy stock, but I didn't know what he would do with it, And
I just gave him $20,000 in a note. What he did with that was his own accord.
Right. And so the SEC doesn't charge anybody, but they do ask Epstein if he was asked to not say anything about potentially other Bear Stearns people were involved in this insider trade, if his bonus was dependent on it. And, he of course says no, but he walks away with about $100,000 bonus,
Wow.
after not ratting on anybody.
Right.
So we don't know. But that's just kind of the end of his time at Bear Stearns, and it doesn't really make sense that he would leave right after making limited partner, which is, of course, again, extremely lucrative to go from a salaried employee to a partner at one of these firms. But that's basically the story of Jeffrey Epstein's at Bear Stearns. He goes and he sets up what's called International Assets Group, where he claims to help billionaires with tax avoidance strategies. But he also says in a deposition he spends 80% of his time assisting people recover stolen money from fraudulent brokers and lawyers. So we don't really know how well he's actually doing throughout this time. But he does meet this guy, Stephen Hoffenberg. And Stephen Hoffenberg is the CEO and founder of Towers Financial. And Towers Financial was a company that would buy debts like unpaid medical bills at discount and then harass debtors for full repayment,
What year is this?
He meets him in 1987.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, these classic productive uses of the resources of the economy. Yes.
So we're doing a lot of background. So I'm going to just break this up for a second.
Of course.
The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God.
Yes, I do. Could you please give us your name?
Jeffery Epstein.
Is it true, sir, that you have what's been described as an egg-shaped penis?
Form, vague, indefinite, and I'm going to give you the first warning, Mr. Cuban, that these types
You'd think
of
he'd at least plead the fifth.
not only argumentative.
Oh, his lawyer's doing the plea.
Oh, that's what he's doing there?
Yeah.
Mr. Epstein, if you continue with this type of question, I will adjourn the deposition immediately.
Sir, according to the police department's probable cause affidavit, one witness described your penis as oval-shaped and claimed when erect it was thick towards the bottom but was thin and small towards the head portion, and called it egg-shaped. Those are not my words, I apologize. But as Mr. Critton has stated, that this is I'm willing to continue.
I'm taking that as a yes. I'm taking that as an admission of egg-shaped dick.
Yeah.
I like how the SVU based on this was worse. Not nearly as interesting.
Yeah, there's definitely an SVU, and in the audiobook from the James Patterson thing, you can hear the guy who's reading it trying to decide whether he wants to do an Ice-T impression.
Man, egg-shaped. I don't think there's anything else worse than you can call someone else's dick.
It's deformed, and apparently he can't get a full erection.
They call the penises egg-shaped.
This is one of them egg-shaped dicks.
Like a traffic cone that blew a gasket in the factory.
I didn't know Mike Tyson was on SVU.
Yeah, I don't watch any SVU. I can't.
Yeah, but so, and basically, like, I mean, and to just kind of, like, finish the background here, essentially, we're wondering about, nobody really knows how Epstein got his money. But essentially, this guy is Stephen Hoffenberg. He has this, you know...
Well, here's a description from the book.
What did he tell you he does for a living? What he specifically told me when I asked him the first time was, "Oh, I'm a brain scientist." And I said, "What the fuck is a brain scientist?" I was like, "That's not a real job. Tell me the truth." But anyway, his explanation was, "It's my job to know how people's brains work." And I said, "Whatever the fuck that means, whatever."
That's from the audiobook?
That's from the audiobook. Wow. Yeah, that's just like the type of thing that he would tell his victims. Is, yeah, I'm a brain scientist. I just know how people work.
He's a brain chef.
He's a brain genius.
He's a brain genius. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's kind of also why I think that he made a lot of his money from
swindling
extortion.
People, yeah.
I mean, also, I think he's just kind of like the Pizzagate pimp. Is he? I mean, a lot of his financial dealings get murkier after Bear Stearns,
right?
And I think, but that's also around the time when he clearly really starts branching out on his pedophilia, and also pimping out children to powerful people. Like he will explicitly tell women, and this has come from the deposition, to come back to him and explain what the people that what these guys would want, what they liked to do in bed, all these kinds of things. Like, he would want all the details of that, and he would keep like meticulous lists of names, and he would brag that he has connections with powerful people. And other people who knew him said he didn't know shit about investing, that he would hire people to do it. And so my guess is that a lot of the money he made was basically he would get a lot of powerful people on the line for or just basically get a lot of blackmail material.
Yeah, he'd learn how people like to fuck and then tell them that, hey, I'll tell people that this is how you like to fuck unless you give me money.
Or not even money, tips.
Yeah.
Give me stuff that I can do insider trading with.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and that's like something we've talked about, is essentially like the business model of a lot of Wall Street or whatever else is just leveraging connections to government and powerful people, which of course gives you information about what's about to happen that you can trade on, which is valuable.
Yeah.
But yeah, like just on that point, like Forbes wrote some article which was essentially like Jeffrey Epstein is not a billionaire, because that's
their the only thing that matters.
Their racket.
We have the list. He's not on it.
But so basically they were saying, like, as part of discovery in these court cases, the lawyers for the victims tried to find out Jeffrey Epstein's net worth, of course, to get damages. And Jeffrey Epstein's lawyers would come back and all they would admit was like it was above 9 figures, I think was their quote. And again, like, he was...
Sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, no worries. Epstein was at least involved in like a tax avoidance strategy, so of course a lot of his money's offshore. But the point was essentially, like, even if he's not like technically a billionaire, I'm sure the photographs that he would have a market value close to $1 billion.
Yeah, if that lot came up at Sotheby's, there'd be a hell of a bidding war.
People laundering money through the photographs.
Well, a lot of the names that came out because his, I guess they're called housemen, just like head butler. When he left stopped working for Jeffrey Epstein, he took a bunch of documents with names on them, and he said it was just to make sure he wouldn't disappear. And then no one wanted to hire him after they found out, after Epstein got convicted, and then you have Jeffrey Epstein's houseman on your resume. No one wanted to hire him, so he tried to sell the names to a lawyer involved in a lawsuit for $50,000, and it eventually just turned out that by not giving those names to police, he was withholding evidence, and he went to jail. But the names got out, and they included...
The papers also included the names, addresses, and phone numbers of famous individuals: Henry Kissinger, Mick Jagger, Dustin Hoffman, Ray Fiennes, David Koch, Ted Kennedy, Donald Trump, Bill Richardson, Bill Clinton, and former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak among them.
Bill Richardson's my favorite.
Yeah, and so this is like just kind of like the addresses that he had. Though apparently, like the Bill Clinton one had like 20 different pieces of contact information, just so he could like reach him at any time.
Wow.
And and it is just kind of something where we talked about this. We did an episode on like David Koch and the Koch brothers, and like it's some grand scheme of things. Maybe they're more evil, like they're essentially doing a mass extinction event and covering it up and these kinds of things. But like researching Epstein, it's so much more visceral and horrifying. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But then you find out that David Koch is in his address book, and you're like, he's doing that too.
Yeah.
Maybe allegedly.
Yeah.
But interesting note on that is that, so his housekeeper, Epstein's housekeeper, takes this address book as evidence so he doesn't disappear. And another running theme in the book is how many people seem to think they're going to disappear if they testify against him.
The thing I just want to say, thing about the Koch brothers and Epstein, and how, one of them is this flamboyant pedophile and the other one you just think of as this quiet psycho, but who also might be doing it. Basically, it boils the question. There's two terms that they use to describe billionaires: eccentric and reclusive. And it basically boils down to how flagrant their pedophilia is. Like, do they have their own private island where they do it, or is there a subterranean vault on their ranch? Do they invite people over, or do they keep it to themselves? And that's the difference between reclusive and eccentric.
Yeah. But so we mentioned, this housekeeper who stole the address book, he was like
the houseman. That guy?
Yeah, the houseman. He was charged by the FBI with extortion because he was trying to get like $50,000 for this, and withholding it from the FBI because he didn't tell them about it in the original investigation. He serves 18 months, which is longer than Jeffrey Epstein serves.
And he had to be in jail the whole time.
Yes, and
whereas Epstein was allowed to go home
on a work release,
6 days a week.
He couldn't go to his regular job and do insider trading and then come back.
Right. 6 days a week?
And that was against the explicit rules of the sheriff's department that did not allow sex offenders to get furloughs. They were explicit. That was a thing you could do for certain crimes, but the crimes he was convicted of were ones you were not allowed to do it with, but he did it anyway for some reason. Somehow. Don't know. Yeah. Weird. Oversight.
Yeah, the whole conviction process is so shady. The chief of police, I guess there were no videos of him, and so he conducted it the way that you're supposed to conduct a case where you have a serial rapist. And then the state attorney was at first he was pretty gung-ho until he heard the name, and he immediately started backing down. And so I guess sorry, I'm getting ahead of what's actually going on. So essentially what happened is Epstein, he had this house in Palm Beach, Florida, and what he would do is he would have young women or girls, he would have underage girls come, and then he would pay them $200 for a quote massage, where he would basically make them get naked, and he would jerk off, do all kinds of disgusting things. And then he would also say that they could make $100, or he would pay them $200 and then an extra $100 for each thing that they would do. And he would also say that there's money in it for you if you can bring me new girls.
Cool. So he's recruiting with them. Yeah.
He's recruiting, and he's also...
It's like Amway.
Yeah. He would instruct them that they should be girls who are inexperienced and are going to need the $200 and are unlikely to go to the authorities. eventually this all came crashing down.
I wonder if this has any relation to the economic system we live under.
Well, if you do the math, because I was running the numbers in my head, and if you're a millionaire and you pay someone $200, that is the equivalent of having $1,000 in the bank and paying someone dimes. If you're a billionaire and you pay someone $200, that's fractions of thousandths of cents to you. That's how much he's paying. So he's paying them the money.
He's literally nickeling and diming
them. Fractions of nickels and dimes. And the reason he's paying these amounts is so that they'll come back to him. Like he's not paying them so much that they're like one and done. And of course, the reason he got caught is because he was doing this with hundreds of girls.
Oh yeah, it's insane.
And so the police do a very thorough investigation. They get several witnesses. Epstein catches wind halfway through the investigation and starts basically doing all these things that we mentioned with the private investigators. And then once it gets to the state attorney, that's when things get really weird because the state attorney kind of starts backing down to the point where the chief of police contacts the FBI. Jim Acosta gets involved. And
Alex Acosta is the current labor secretary under Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah, Alex Acosta. Sorry,
Jim's brother.
I don't know what I'm saying. I am not qualified.
That's why they think Trump's coming after the pedophiles because of his abuse of Jim Acosta. But yeah, so and then the state attorney at this time was a guy named Barry Kreischer. Interestingly enough, was accused in 1992 of groping a subordinate. But he's like
unrelated. I'm sure.
Yes, it tries to get Epstein off with even a misdemeanor. But we're kind of jumping ahead. I did just want to say two other things, and then we can kind of get into this. So one other thing we mentioned this the house manager served 18 months longer than Epstein. Just unrelated. I don't know if you're familiar with these people, Matt, but Sherry Jacobus was apparently a columnist for USA Today and The Hill, and she tweeted at Michael Caputo or something. She tweeted at him in July 2018, quote, "Are your daughters ugly like you, or can Trump use them at the Epstein parties so they can survive when you're broke, bitter, alone, and in prison for treason?" Question mark. And she tweeted this at him, and she was fired by USA Today and The Hill. And I just wanted to also highlight that Alan Dershowitz has not been fired by The Hill. So in addition to the manager doing more time, just trolling people with Epstein stuff is also a greater offense. Right. But I did just want to finish the background stuff, and then we finish out with the horrible inevitable conclusion of all this. Basically, Epstein in 1987, he gets hired by this guy Stephen Hoffenberg. Hoffenberg pays him about $25,000 a month for consulting. According to the Vanity Fair article, they engage in a variety of financial schemes, including price manipulations, like straw investing, where Epstein will make investments with money from undisclosed Swiss accounts. No criminal charges. But in 1995, Hoffenberg pleads guilty to a $460 million Ponzi scheme. He's sentenced to 19 years in prison, and he actually tells the journalists, I believe in the James Patterson book, essentially why Epstein didn't go to prison for this is you'll have to ask the U.S. attorney. And he alleges that the assistant U.S. attorney Robert Gold kept the investigation away from Epstein until the statute of limitations ran out, and Epstein had previously helped the U.S. attorney recover money. We don't know how true that all is, but the important thing is in 1989, Epstein meets probably the most important person in his life, his billionaire Leslie Wexner. Leslie Wexner is the founder of L Brands, which owns Victoria's Secret, as well as Bath & Body Works. Epstein begins managing his money, 1989. Leslie Wexner buys Epstein his $13 million NYC home, which is apparently one of the largest private residences in Manhattan.
Wow.
There's like a weird story of Epstein.
Let's go there after this.
Yeah. So they're like, according to Vanity Fair, Wexner trusts Epstein so completely that he has assigned to him the power of fiduciary over all of his private trusts and foundations. So he's like totally in control of his money. They go everywhere together. There's a story in this book that's really weird where Leslie Wexner gets married, and then he goes to Epstein to sign the prenuptial, and Epstein gets him to sign it on the bare chest of a Sports Illustrated swimsuit model as a way of being like, hey, this is what you're missing out when you're getting married, just this kind of weird shit. But the important thing here is that it's through Leslie Wexner's ownership of Victoria's Secret that Jeffrey Epstein gets access to essentially hiring power or power within the Victoria's Secret catalog. Like, as far as I've been able to tell, the earliest accusation is 1997. He's accused of groping a woman in a California hotel who he said, I can get you a job with the Victoria's Secret catalog. And essentially there. And though, Leslie Wexner, of course, took all of the pictures of Epstein out of his home after 2008. So I'm sure he has no involvement there. And then, the other thing that happens is he meets Ghislaine Maxwell. Do you familiar with Robert Maxwell, Matt?
No, I don't think so.
So Robert Maxwell, I guess maybe British listeners might be more familiar. He's kind of infamous over there. But so basically, he was a billionaire media baron in the United Kingdom. His body washed up in 1991. He either fell or jumped or was pushed off his yacht, essentially. He was a major media baron in the United Kingdom, but after he died, it came out that he had looted hundreds of millions of pounds from his employees' pensions and used them to pump up the stock price in his empire, which, of course, goes back to him. So this is how Ghislaine Maxwell, his daughter, becomes rich, is, stealing hundreds of millions out of employees' pensions. But the important thing is after her father dies, she moves in 1991 to NYC. She briefly becomes lovers with Jeffrey Epstein, and then, according to these sworn affidavits, starts procuring young girls for him. Like Victoria Roberts, we've mentioned.
And in Epstein's words, she's upgraded to his best friend.
Yeah, so there's a Vanity Fair article that was written before all this came out, and if you read it with hindsight, it's extremely creepy.
Yeah.
Because, yes, he gives that quote there.
Yeah, and in the Vanity Fair article, the Patterson book goes over this. The original article had details of Epstein's his abuse from what was known in 2003. Then Epstein showed up at Vanity Fair offices, more or less threatened them, and they had to cut all of that stuff from the article. And you could see when you read the article that it's a long article. Every section is several paragraphs long, and then the one about Jeffrey Epstein's quote affinity for young women is only 2 paragraphs long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's through Ghislaine Maxwell.
It's 2 paragraphs long. He left that in even after cussing them out.
They cut out all the stuff that was. It was just he likes younger women.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
But through Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein meets the British royal family, this is where the Lyndon LaRouche conspiracy theory comes in, that the British family is directing all of this.
That's that's like when Superman and Batman formed the pedophile Justice League there. Oh man, that's like when Kal-El finds Earth's yellow sun and gains his powers, getting next to the fucking British royal family. Ugh. Those people know how to do pedophilia, folks. 1,000 years straight.
They've never stopped.
It's Shepherd's Pie Gate from the Norman Conquest onward.
But yeah, so Prince Andrew would of course be accused of participating in this, but Ghislaine Maxwell she's also friends with Donald Trump. This is how Jeffrey Epstein gets access to Mar-a-Lago. And we've mentioned Virginia Roberts. She was age 15. She was working as a changing room assistant at Mar-a-Lago.
And there are videos with Prince Andrew with his arm around Virginia Roberts.
Really?
It's a child. It's horrifying.
Yeah.
But so Ghislaine Maxwell essentially meets her in this changing room, and she offers to train her as a massage therapist, which of course means, according to Virginia Roberts' sworn affidavit, Ghislaine Maxwell brings her to Jeffrey Epstein's house where they both sexually assault her. And this continues for, I believe, 3 years. She essentially ends up being trafficked by Epstein. According to her sworn testimony, or sworn affidavit, was made to have sex with Prince Andrew and Alan Dershowitz, allegedly. I don't know. He's litigious about that one.
I don't know. He's threatening to sue everybody, but I don't think he wants a discovery phase. Come on. I think he's full of shit on that.
Yeah. I think so much has come out now that he can't sue everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing. Yeah. Who are you going to sue, dude? Everyone knows. I have to say, though, that that anybody the idea that Trump was involved in this just seems very, very far-fetched. All you really have is the quote where he explicitly says that he is aware that Jeffrey Epstein likes young girls.
Yes.
And you have the fact that he founded a beauty pageant for the explicit purpose of doing Porky's-style hijinks.
Right.
And oogling underage girls while they were changing, which he just bragged about.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's the kind of guy who would do anything.
No,
like
of course
I think he's actually conducting the secret investigation of all the pedophiles, and they're all going to go to jail soon.
And so what the fuck happened in the 2016 election? There was a Jane Doe who was alleging that when she was 13,
Right.
I
Yes.
guess, through Donald Trump, that she was abused, or through Epstein, she was abused by Trump. And then she was going to have a press conference and didn't show up to it, and then kind of withdrew her accusations. And then I haven't heard anything about it since then.
Yeah, one of the weirdest things about that is that when Trump got elected,
all the pedophilia stopped.
Yeah. The judge explicitly said, because he's the president, you should seek a settlement, which is...
That's weird.
That's bad judging.
He's just offering some advice there. He's busy. He's got a lot on his plate.
The master deal maker cuts another one.
There's so many deals to be made. He's in prime deal-making position. And you know what he was? Because remember, he finally settled the fucking Trump University lawsuit.
Right, yeah.
So get him while he's still looking to get things out of the headlines, I guess.
Out-of-court settlement, NDA, deal.
Boom. So many deals. Folks, we're making so many deals. No one's going to talk about all the horrible shit we do.
But Ghislaine Maxwell is, again, kind of a horrifying person.
She's like a high-class Karla Homolka.
Yeah. So, yes, and she attends Chelsea Clinton's wedding in 2010, which is so weird. Again, this is
I love how we have all these two parties who are opposed to one another and certainly are not just one giant disgusting fucking ruling class like in the movie Society, just getting together in a room where their bodies lose definition and they come into one giant sort of disgusting Jabba the Hutt like slithering blob, and then they just feed young children through a chute into the blob, and the blob just absorbs them in one end and then shoots them out covered in mucus and traumatized for life out of the other. And then when they're done, they just go into different parts again and then go on TV and yell about how each other is a pedophile. I love that. It's great. I love the two-party system we have.
I mean, Epstein, he's a
great
testament
film.
to bipartisanship. Like Ken Starr
Yeah,
was
seriously.
one of his defense attorneys. And Ken, who, he took down Bill Clinton and also had as a protege Brett Kavanaugh.
Yes, that's true.
We need a return to bipartisanship in Washington, D.C. The good old days. But yeah, it's like a weird thing where it's like, so she attends Chelsea Clinton's wedding in 2010. There's allegations, again, unsubstantiated, that she was the conduit through which Epstein continued to communicate with the Clintons. But it is just fucking weird where it's like, okay, you're at Chelsea Clinton's wedding. Did Chelsea Clinton invite you? Did Bill or Hillary invite you? I mean, what's going on? Epstein, of course, had been a donor to the Clintons before that became politically incorrect to accept his money. And then Ghislaine Maxwell she's like on she's founded some foundation that's all about saving the oceans.
Yeah, she got a TEDx.
Yeah, she did a TEDx talk in 2014.
Couldn't get booked on regular TED.
It's the foundation to clean the ocean of all the bodies that they dropped from the bay of flying over airplanes over the years.
A lot of trash has been ending up in the ocean.
We got to clean out the trash
from St. James Island,
from Eastern Europe.
But so, and this kind of like brings us to the thing where, again, this is where in the 90s where these allegations start. Ghislaine Maxwell is allegedly recruiting for Jeffrey Epstein,
including at Mar-a-Lago.
Yes.
Right. Yes. And so this Palm Beach case, which we mentioned earlier, essentially the Palm Beach PD find that from 2001 to 2006, they identified 47 minors molested and raped at his Palm Beach mansion. Two of them said that they were actually like physically raped. But
and keep in mind, this is Epstein has several properties in Manhattan.
Yes, this is
on
just
his
Palm
island.
Beach.
This is just Palm Beach.
Right.
And these are just the ones that the law enforcement was able to confirm.
Mm-hmm. And so this state attorney, Barry Kreischer, he stops returning calls from the detectives. You know, they get suspicious, as
Which
we
is,
mentioned.
You know, what you do as a state attorney
Right.
You stop returning calls from the guy investigating the case you're prosecuting.
So he kicks it up to, or the detective tries to get the FBI involved. Alex Acosta, again, current labor secretary, then U.S. attorney in charge, gives Jeffrey Epstein almost immediately this non-prosecution agreement. There's the emails between the prosecution and Acosta, which are essentially saying, "Hey, let's make sure to keep this out of the press." You know, we'll make
because
sure
there's one thing that the politically ambitious prosecutors hate is high-profile sexual assault cases involving high-profile characters. Like
Yes.
that's the kind of thing that you don't want to have your hands on if you want to build a reputation for yourself as tough on crime and become, higher up in the political side, become attorney general or something. You don't want that.
No.
You got to keep that stuff quiet. The thing about this is that this case, like. So they had all this. He was dead to rights. They could have put him under the prison for the rest of his life.
Right.
And then they made a plea deal with him, which, and you look at the way that it was negotiated, was basically everything. The entire settlement was the terms of it were presented by the defense attorneys, and the prosecution just said, "Okay, you got a deal." And when that happens, usually you get something. And traditionally, in a case like this, you get leniency in exchange for naming your co-conspirators. Right. In this case, it really looks like they gave him immunity to not name any of his co-conspirators. Like that was the quid pro quo, was we'll give you a sweetheart deal in exchange for you not releasing any of these tapes or not telling anybody about any of the people who you had in your place. I mean, it's the only thing that makes sense. It's the only explanation for these guys just deciding to go insanely easy, violating federal law to give him a deal when they had him fucking done for. It was not like this was an iffy case that they were like, well, we don't want to roll the dice. We want to make sure we get him. He was done for. And then they say, not only you're okay, we're going to give you this light sentence, but anybody unnamed.
Yes. Anybody
who might have done anything associated with you who we don't even know is preemptively immune. And that's so comically, obviously crooked,
right?
That it really tells you that, oh yeah, the only thing that makes sense here, you don't have to be conspiracy theory, you don't have to think there's dungeons and pizza restaurants, is that he had information about incredibly powerful people, and those people had more sway over the prosecutors and the FBI than any concept of the law or even concern for public opinion would.
Yep.
Right, and the other thing is Alex Acosta, again, Trump's current labor secretary, is appointed by George W. Bush. He's supposedly a Republican U.S. attorney investigating a prominent Democrat donor.
Yeah. This is catnip.
Right.
This is the kind of thing that makes your career, and for some reason they can't touch it. It's a hot potato.
There was also in the Patterson book, an unnamed Democratic politician who contacted the chief of police telling him to back off repeatedly.
What?
To the point where the chief of police had to say, this is illegal. Stop it.
Oh, my God.
An anonymous Democrat politician who kept talking about how he feels the chief of police's pain. And
could the prosecutors themselves be a part of the Epstein ring, you think? That to me makes the most sense. Like, oh, if we nail this guy for everything he knows, we're going to get fucked too. So we might as well say, hey, you can't name anyone as well.
I mean, that's the thing is, what's so disturbing about it is they don't have to. Power is distributed in such a way that your career, if you care about your career, they have an ability to determine your actions regardless of your personal culpability. You know, like these guys, they might not have anything on them. They don't have to have a blackmail file on you.
Right, yeah.
They just have to know that you want to get another better job. And look at fucking Acosta. He's goddamn in the cabinet now. It worked for him. He made the right call from a career perspective.
Right.
He made the correct, rational, self-interested Bayesian choice or whatever the hell to do that. And regardless of whether he was trying to cover something up that he had something to do with, or he just wanted to keep advancing, That's all it took. And so, like, that's the thing is, not only do you have all these prosecutors and cops either looking the other way or cutting this deal, but all the people who knew about it while it was happening, all the people who worked with and around Epstein, who knew it was happening, and it didn't have anything to do with it, weren't part of the Yellow King circle, didn't have a passport to Carcosa.
Yeah.
All you need, you don't even need. That's the thing. All you need is at the very top. All you need is the perversions to be concentrated high enough at the top that all you need to keep that secret is not some cascading level of like Cthulhu worship. You just need people wanting to be ambitious and want their careers to get better, and then that will do the rest.
Yeah, that's pretty horrifying. And like, so, and just in what on Matt was saying on like, did they get anything out of this? As far as like what we know, this Miami Herald long piece, the only thing they found was essentially, and this is a weird thing that I learned, is Jeffrey Epstein was a key federal witness in the only criminal prosecution they tried against Wall Street. They tried to indict 2 senior Bear Stearns executives. They were eventually found not guilty, and then nobody else was held accountable. And apparently Jeffrey Epstein was a federal witness in this. So, you know, the immunity was worth it because we put all those bankers in jail with his testimony.
Yeah, no, that definitely feels like a post facto thing.
Right,
If everyone looks into this, we have to have some explanation for why we gave him this deal. And it's like, well, these guys, they would have still not gone to jail if it hadn't been for him. His incredible testimony.
And so just like other stuff from the trial, Alan Dershowitz was, of course, one of Epstein's attorneys, along with Ken Starr.
Allegedly.
Alan Dershowitz submits the MySpace quizzes of some of the victims as evidence.
Really?
Yeah. Apparently, Alan Dershowitz showed that when one of the victims' MySpaces, under the quiz, she wrote, ever drank? Yes. Ever smoked pot? Yeah. Ever skinny dipped? Yeah.
God.
And then the fucking state attorney, they call a grand jury, which is apparently like not usual in these kinds of cases, according to the Patterson book. But the state attorney or the lawyers grill the victim about her MySpace page in this fucking deposition. And it's just really weird. Where, again, this is a child trafficking victim. You know, being
your MySpace grill.
Yeah, because she wrote, yes, I've smoked pot on my fucking
We've
MySpace
noticed stuff
page.
in your top 8 that's really suspicious. Jesus.
Hey, have you talked to Tom? Did Tom want you to do anything?
Mm-hmm. Wow, Tom gives your character a thumbs down.
The other really, really unusual prosecutorial behavior, and this wasn't even in Florida, is that after Epstein does his incredibly light sentence where he got to be furloughed 6 days a week and just spend nights in the jail, not even the prison, in the fucking jail. And he got back to New York and he had to register as a sex offender. He then, with the balls of stone, tries to appeal his status, and argue that he doesn't have to get it renewed. And who argues on his behalf in front of the court is one of Cy Vance's Manhattan ADAs. The fucking ADA says, come on, Judge, like, he's fine. Look at him.
Wow.
Like, where the fuck does that come from? Like, whoa. And of course, Cy Vance, famous for looking the other way for Weinstein and fucking Ivanka and Jared, whose job, he is just the Renfield for every fucking crooked piece of shit on that island.
Right, yeah, unless you're like a homeless guy with a joint.
Oh, yeah,
then
you're
5 years in Rikers Island.
Yeah. Tough on crime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a gravity knife, buddy. You're done for.
Yeah, you're a serial rapist, but, you don't jump the turnstile.
Yeah.
And just like one other anecdote from this Patterson book about the justice system in Florida. In 2013, a Florida man got 10-year mandatory minimum for sexting with a cop pretending to be a 15-year-old. And again, this is like... Oh,
my God.
Likely hundreds of cases of just child rape and abuse. And,
Well, I mean, the real lesson here is if you have those kind of proclivities, start day trading. Build up a nest egg, get your license, get your broker's license, come here.
Yeah.
Get
in
Manhattan.
early.
Yeah.
Make friends and videotape
exactly.
what they're doing.
Yeah, go to parties. Just keep it under wraps until you hit the 7-figure net worth minimum, and then you can start going to town.
I like to think the feds heard that he worked at Bear Stearns and then drafted the non-prosecution agreement out of habit. But so I guess it just like the time we have left, there is like one other case one other part of this story that's pretty horrifying that I just wanted to kind of go
just
through.
One?
Here. Well, of what we know.
Are we not going to have time to talk about Deep Dershowitz pizza?
We might have a couple minutes, but I do just want to talk about.
Last night I just texted Sean. Hey Sean, Deep Dersh pizza.
So Jean-Luc Brunel was a modeling scout and owner of a modeling agency. He was in 1988 accused in a 60 Minutes program of drugging and raping multiple models. He's been accused by models of, again, drugging their drinks, raping them. And, he's a shady fucking guy. He opens a modeling agency called Karin, Karin. Epstein in 2004 or 2005 invests $1 to $2 million in it and gets him to change the name to MC2 Modeling Agency, as in E equals MC squared, physics.
He fucking loves science. That is true. He does. He's given tons of money to Harvard and stuff for their neurology or neuroscience departments and stuff. He fucking loves science.
No, here's
that's what Steve Pinker would tell you about why he was on the plane. Well, we were just talking about science.
Yeah.
Here's where it gets really fucked up is one of the guys that he brought on the plane to his island is Murray Gell-Mann, who is a Nobel Prize winning physicist and also the guy who coined the term quarks to describe the subatomic particles and is the father of quantum chromodynamics. He's tied up in the Epstein thing and was like a good friend of him and talked about how great it was that Epstein always had these beautiful women around him all the time.
He was picking his brain to figure out a way that they could use like the Hadron Collider to create women of negative age.
Also, nice. Yes, he is the father of hadrons as a concept.
Is there a negative 14-year-old that I could possibly be involved in the string dimension or something?
That'd be nice. You go to the I Fucking Love Science Facebook page and you post the photo of Stephen Hawking and Jeffrey Epstein's submarine and just see if anybody notices. Jeffrey Epstein loves physics. All right, so the point here is that they set up this MC2 modeling agency either 2004 or 2005, and then
by the way, we tried to find videos. Apparently, Epstein used to have videos where he describes theoretical physics. We tried to find these videos; they're not online.
If our listeners can find them, please send them to us.
Would you describe the universe as egg-shaped?
If a 14-year-old girl is in a box with an egg-shaped penis, you don't know if she's molested until you open it.
So basically, according to this complaint filed in a U.S. District Court in Florida, Epstein and this guy, Jean-Luc Brunel, quote, deliberately engaged in a pattern of racketeering that involved luring minor children through the MC2 modeling agency, mostly girls under the age of 17, to engage in sexual play for money. Basically, they would get girls from out of the country, many of whom didn't speak English, and they would get them into the United States on visas to work as models.
On the promise of a modeling contract.
Right. And then once they were there, they would be staying in condos that just happened to be owned by Jeffrey Epstein, and they would be charged, quote, rent, which meant they would be prostituted. I mean, that's classic that's classic trafficking.
Right.
Is you bring someone in, and then they're staying at your place, and then you make them pay rent by trafficking their services. And for what it's worth, Jean-Luc Brunel would actually stay at Epstein's Palm Beach mansion for the time that he was incarcerated. So, it's just kind of like horrifying. All of the stuff that's not part of just the Palm Beach criminal case that we're talking about.
By the way, the parallels with the recent R. Kelly documentary are also kind of stunning. That it seems like once these pedophiles get powerful enough, they just have these live-in sex slaves.
And they both can't read.
And then he said I was ugly and I couldn't read good.
They become the bank. But so basically, and then one other thing, and then we can talk about, with the time we have left, the future. But essentially, Epstein, what's going to happen next? But Epstein owns what's called Little St. James Island in the U.S. Virgin Islands. According to The Guardian, for a time, the wife of the governor of the U.S. Virgin Islands was managing 2 companies that Epstein set up there. Mm-hmm. So he owns this, and then according to Virginia Roberts, it's like secluded. They would have, according to Virginia Roberts, they would have child orgies there because this is a 70-acre island that's totally secluded, that, nobody really knows what's going on there. And that
except the locals who coined the term for his airplane, the Lolita Express.
Yes. And I did just want to mention, if you Google the Little St. James Island, you will learn that people will leave Google reviews for the Little St. James Island. And the Little St. James Island has 1.2 stars out of 5. And I just wanted to share 2 of these with you. Quote, I am leaving this review for the children that never got to leave Pedophile Island.
Oh, my God.
1 star. And then another one is, there is enough operators and patriots that should infiltrate this island and end the horror for these young people. Surveillance till more are on the island.
Okay, that would rule. Just those. That's the real move. Forget going to Comet Ping Pong. Just get a cigarette boat full of your army buddies and try to go out there. We thought this was a Chuck E. Cheese. 1 star. The Country Bear Band came alive. The Country Bear Band came alive.
But yes, so that's the direct action you can take is to leave 1-star reviews for Epstein's Pedophile Island. That would be the John Oliver segment on the pedophile. Right. You can go to Google and leave a 1-star review. So people don't go to his private island. But I mean, essentially, like, the future here is there's one civil case that's ongoing as of this recording, which is basically because of this non-prosecution agreement violates what was called the Crime Victims' Rights Act. Which,
because they kept it from the victims. They kept the terms of the deal from the victims. They didn't know about it before it had been carried out, which violated this law.
Right. So because it violated this law, there's this ongoing civil case, and they're essentially trying to get the non-prosecution agreement thrown out, which would allow Epstein to be charged again, federally for whatever on the statute, wherever the statute of limitation hasn't expired or whatever else. But the point is, this case is ongoing as of this moment, but it is just something where it's like, I guess we'll just keep our eyes out, because either more stuff comes out or this just kind of goes away. Like in Alex Acosta's Senate hearings for when he became labor secretary, a couple people brought this up. I think Dianne Feinstein briefly, but it just wasn't kind of pressed. It was, 60-some senators voted for the guy, and then he said, oh, it's better we got 2 years, acting like, it was hard to get more than that or something. So I guess just like in the future, we'll see if he has enough to just make the political establishment or the elite businessmen or whoever else consolidate themselves behind him.
Or he'll just show up dead somewhere. Like,
yes,
right. Like he's
I was
like
thinking
autoerotic asphyxiation while watching Hannah Montana reruns or something.
I'm sure he's got like a dead man's switch though on.
Right.
He should.
I was thinking about that.
If he's smart, he does. Which means that if they take him down, he might decide to just press it.
Well, he's a brain scientist.
He is.
Imagine models being like, I don't want to go to your island. I looked at the Yelp review. A lot of 1 stars on there.
Andy, you have that drop of like the
this
address.
I saw everything, yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, he is circumcised? My bad. He's circumcised, 110% sure. As a matter of fact, he has some sort of birth defect on his thing. It's like a teardrop, like a drop of water. It's really fat at the bottom and skinny at the top where it's attached. And he never gets fully hard, ever.
I was thinking about the one with all the addresses. There's like, so yeah.
What a chilling drop to just bring on it.
I got one more too.
Man.
It should be the teaser.
I loaded up 3 drops describing Jeffrey Epstein's penis.
I'm so happy you let us know there's another one before you displayed it for us.
It's more of a threat.
You have the names and addresses poll, or just like the
I have
list
the names one, but we already played it.
Oh, we already played
that?
with
Like Bill Richardson and
Bill Richardson.
Which I love that, just the wet blanket from 2008.
Wearing a bolo tie.
Right. According to Vanity Fair, again, this proves nothing, but billionaire, this is the article that came out before he was outed as a sex predator. Billionaire Ronald Perlman was a frequent dinner guest. Billionaire Leon Black.
Ronald Perlman?
Yeah.
The guy from Hellboy?
Not
Perlman?
Perlman.
I don't know.
I checked.
Yeah. Billionaire Leon Black, frequent dinner guest, Donald Trump, of course, Woody Allen. And so, it's just like, if you spend enough time Googling, you can tangentially connect him to so many people that it's
5
very
degrees
scary.
of Epstein.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he does not drink or smoke tobacco.
Oh, good.
There's 6 degrees of... If you want to have a complete breakfast, you need 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon and then the 6 degrees of the egg.
But I guess, Matt, are there things we didn't get to or your kind of closing thoughts on this man?
No, I think we were pretty thorough. This is good. A lot of good research you guys did, which I'm, of course, totally unwilling to do due to congenital laziness. But it's really always horrifying just to lay it out and see the just lack of any, on his part, concern, his entirety of him doing it, being willing to just put out a net of hundreds of girls and saying, like, yeah, there's no way I'm going to get in trouble for this. And then you're like, you idiot, of course you are. And that's like, no, he was right. He was right. He wasn't gonna get in any meaningful sense, no, he wasn't going to get in trouble for this. And it just tells you, yeah, there's a whole other strata up there. They do what they want to do. And yeah, there's a reference earlier to Kubrick. I mean, there is a whole theory that Eyes Wide Shut is based on stuff that he was directly familiar with from his exposure to the upper crust who he rubbed elbows with, especially in where? The United Kingdom that he lived in for many years, where they invented the practice. I mean, the last prime minister, David Cameron, admitted basically that when he was in the fourth form or whatever, he put his dick in a dead pig's mouth. And we know that the Skull and Bones, for many years, the initiation ritual involved lying in a coffin naked and jacking off while listing your sexual history.
Jesus.
And it just makes sense, It's like the ruling class it's a class, and that means not only that they share economic interests, but they have a social milieu. And they have rituals of bonding, like, going to Buffalo Wild Wings and watching a football game. Only, the Wild Wings are adrenochrome snacks that came from the brains of the children.
Yeah, and then like the Miami Herald, which wrote this great long piece, their current campaign, which I think is kind of hopeless, is they're trying to get the Senate to pass a bill which would allow the Inspector General to investigate Alex Acosta's role in this. And, getting the Senate to do anything, much less expose the pedophile cover-up, I think is kind of a long shot. But
I don't think you're going to get a supermajority of people who aren't entangled with Epstein.
2/3 of the Senate who are not. But then again, there's still a lot of sealed documents in like the Virginia Roberts case. Like one of her cases was settled, and there's sealed documents related to that. So there's just a lot of open questions about what's in these sealed documents, and maybe we'll all get to learn within the next 5 or 10 years, or maybe everything goes away and then we don't talk about it again.
I think the only way you're going to really get to the bottom of it is if you give a random person $1 billion. Somebody who had no connection to the wealthy at all, and then you're like, all right, you have $1 billion now. No one can take it from you. You are set forever. Your family is now super wealthy. And now you can go and you can bring down the pedophiles. And then, like, he can create his own sort of anti-pedo Pinkertons to go to town and investigate it and reveal it to the public. Because that's the only way it would happen, is a countervailing force of vast wealth being able to circumvent the obviously compromised formal channels of justice.
I mean, I would say it would probably be the fastest turnover from buying a Gulfstream to having a sudden high altitude depressurization.
Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. It's like, oh, this idiot, he left the dipstick in. Of course it was going to fall crashing out of the sky somehow.
Yes, sometimes limos explode.
Yeah.
All right. Any other closing thoughts we didn't get to?
Yes.
Allison explained that Epstein's penis was deformed. She explained that his penis was oval-shaped. She claimed when Epstein's penis was erect, it was thick toward the bottom, but was thin and small toward the head portion. She called Epstein's penis egg-shaped.
You're never going to think of balloon clowns the same way.
Or omelets.
But Matt Christman, again, obviously my favorite podcast, Chapo Trap House. I want to thank you sincerely for coming and doing this with us.
So much.
And, you know,
first they think you're crazy, then they fight you, and then all of a sudden you change the world.